In today's video, we dive into a case unlike any other, a story so shocking that even investigators were left speechless. What began as a normal crime investigation quickly spiraled into something far more disturbing. A woman ran into the Video Hut rental shop on Sunday, December 17th. She had no shoes on and red marks on her face and hands. Her name was Michelle Thier. She begged the staff to call for help because she was upset. She said that someone had shot her husband. Michelle didn't have her cell phone with her that night, so the rental shop was her only choice. In just a few minutes, rescue workers were sent to the scene, and Fayetteville police arrived quickly. It was scary seeing that scene. A red Ford Explorer was the only car in the close parking lot. A badly hurt man was lying next to it. It was Marty Thier, who is 31 years old. He was a soldier who had just been sent to a base in the area. He and Michelle had just moved to Fayetteville to begin this new part of their lives. They went to a Christmas party together that day. Michelle had to go back to her office to get some things afterward, so Marty waited outside in the car. The next thing that happened very quickly. Michelle said she heard 5 loud bangs. When she ran out of the building, she saw her husband lying down next to their car. She ran for help without stopping to think. Even though paramedics arrived quickly, Marty's injuries were very bad. Even though many people tried to save him, he died soon after. The fact that there wasn't a clear reason puzzled investigators right away. The car had no damage done. There were no signs of a break-in, no witnesses who had seen a gunman, and no reports of strange behavior in the lot. Michelle's hands were checked for gunshot residue right away to rule out any possibilities, but there was none. Before we dive deeper, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I always love hearing from viewers around the world. And if you're into true crime cases like this one, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. All right, let's get back to the case. Marty Thier, Captain Frank Martin, came into the world on February 26, 1969, in Würzburg, Germany. Marky was born in Europe, but he was not German. He lived there with his mother Linda, who worked as a nurse, and his father, who was in the U.S. military. Marty was their only child, and from the start, they loved him very much. His mother especially, who saw him as the center of her life. Family life was hard, though. Martin was also his father, and he had problems that few people around him understood. He was mean and angry at times. In other situations, he kept quiet. Over time, the fighting between Marty's parents got worse. While Marty was still young, his father left one day and never came back. Linda was left to raise her son by herself in a different country. She had to deal with the pain of being abandoned while trying to keep things stable. In the end, she found out that her husband had schizophrenia, which explained a lot, but didn't make her feel better. To get help, Linda and Marty went back to the United States and moved in with Linda's folks in Colorado. Her parents stepped in to help her take care of her son while she worked hard. During the war, Marty's grandpa fought on the front lines in the 1940s and became a steady and loving figure in their lives. In the role of a father figure, he taught Marty how to be strong, follow rules, and be kind. They had a strong bond that changed the way Marty saw the world. He did well in school, did well in sports, and gained the respect of his peers. He had many friends, but the one he had with his mother, Linda, was the most important to him. She was his rock and his best friend. Marty met Michelle in Colorado when he was a teenager. She would become the love of his life. Michelle was born in 1970 on December 9th. Her family life was also a mess, just like Marty's. Tom, her dad, was also in the service, so the family moved around a lot. The family lived in the UK for 3 years, and then he was sent to South Korea. Michelle was the oldest of 3 kids and was in charge of most of the housework. She loved her father very much and found it hard to be without him after he left her mother. While their mother was at work, Michelle took care of her younger sister Angela and her brother Tom. Michelle did well in school, even though she had a lot of tasks. She liked having a small group of friends more than being the center of attention. Michelle and Marty hit it off right away when they met. Michelle's brother and sister made Marty feel like she was part of their family right away, even though Marty had never had siblings before. At the end of the 1980s, Marty had finished high school and got into the U.S. Air Force Academy. He had dreams of going to space, but the truth was hard. There were very few chances to become an astronaut, and there was a lot of competition. In the end, Marty decided to join the military, which was still in line with his interests. Michelle, on the other hand, joined the Armed Reserves after high school and is now in college. Her time in the reserve helped pay for her schooling, and she even went on a 5-month deployment and got a Medal of Honor for her hard work. Still, she didn't want to be in the military in the long run. During her service, she found that psychology was what she really liked. Their relationship lasted even though they both had busy lives. In the end, Marty asked her to marry him, and they did so in 1991. Mary at 22 and Michelle at 21. Oklahoma was where Marty's first job took him. Michelle studied psychology and worked part-time in a nursery when she wasn't busy with her studies. But soon, he was sent back to Denver for training. Michelle once more packed up her life to follow him. Even though the move was hard, she stayed motivated and continued her studies in Colorado. Her hard work paid off. Michelle got her bachelor's degree in psychology in 1994, making her the first person in her family to go to college. Marty and Michelle thought their future was going exactly as it should. Two driven young people making a life together based on love and strength. Michelle was determined to go further, so she didn't stop studying. As soon as she finished her degree, she started a master's program. By the middle of the 1990s, the couple had moved to Florida, where they could find new possibilities. Michelle finished her psychology master's degree quickly and then went on to get her PhD. She put all of her time and energy into study and started writing for academic journals. It was easy for her to see what the future held. She planned to work in academia and eventually become a therapist. Marty kept moving up in the military while she pursued this road. They were both climbing their own ladders of success. Michelle found work in Florida that meant something to her. She worked on a crisis line to help people who had been abused. Later, she started doing more hands-on therapy work and even held meetings with people who were in jail. She was asked to be a guest expert on local radio shows and spoke at public events where she earned a reputation as a caring and careful professional. Things seemed stable at home. Michelle and Marty bought a simple house with a pool to show how cozy their new life would be. But cracks were slowly appearing behind that picture. The routine of life in the military was hard, and both of their jobs needed long hours. Marty was sent to Kuwait for a few months in 1996. It was the first time Michelle had been away from him for so long, and it made her feel nervous and uneasy. Their relationship was put to the test more than once by the end of the decade. Marty had to go to Georgia because he was in the service, while Michelle got a great internship in Alabama. They lived apart for a while and each worked on building their own future. A lot of bad things happened in 1999. Having your own home gave you a sense of freedom, which Michelle began to value. Without having to think about the daily tasks of being married, she found that she liked having the freedom to make her own decisions, plan her own days, and not have to share responsibilities. In the end, Marty's next move went through. He was sent to North Carolina this time. After her job was over, Michelle agreed to go with him. After moving, they went to Fayetteville, a place known for its military ties and steady stream of newcomers. And this is where Michelle started her private business as a licensed psychologist. She quickly got used to her new job and felt like her work was becoming more stable. While Marty stood by her side, their marriage was no longer the same. He was always proud of what she had done. After being apart for years, their relationship had changed. There were small differences that felt bigger now that they were living together again. Marty's need for order and Michelle's desire to be independent led to many fights over small things like cleaning. But those differences were only the surface of bigger problems. Marty wanted to start a family when he was 30. He thought now was the right time to have kids. But Michelle didn't agree. She had just started to make a name for herself in her field, and the thought of having to move from base to base with her kids scared her. Around the middle of the year 2000, Michelle suggested that they go to marriage counseling. Marty said no. Since there was no way for them to agree, she made up her mind. She would move out, if only for a short time. Marty stayed with Michelle's family for 3 months while Michelle rented an apartment. She wasn't sure if she wanted a divorce, but she thought being away from him would help her figure out how she felt. But it was soon clear that Michelle wasn't living alone. She had started seeing someone else. Army Staff Sergeant John Diamond was 28 years old and lived just a short drive from where the Thiers did. He worked at Fort Bragg. The two of them met about a year ago, but not by chance. It was through the internet. From the start, it was clear that Michelle wasn't just looking to have a casual chat. She put up an ad saying she was looking for a sexy fit partner between the ages of 25 and 35 who she could meet up with twice or 3 times a week. That wasn't enough, though. She wanted a man who would also push her to think critically. She also made it clear that she wasn't interested in planes that went across the country. Her dream partner had to live near Fayetteville. John Diamond was the right person for the job. He, like Michelle, had been in the service. He was tall and fit, and he carried himself with the assurance of a fighter. He was married too. He married a woman he met while stationed in Panama. She came with him to the United States, but John's commitment was not clear. He was known for cheating on his wife. John and Michelle became close very quickly. They were physically attracted to each other and were also interested in swinging and living an unusual life. But Michelle hadn't turned her back on her husband totally, even though they were connected. After being apart for a while, Marty got in touch. He admitted he was wrong and decided to go to marriage counseling, which he had turned down before. There was hope for Michelle that they could still be together. After 3 months away, she went back home ready to give her marriage another try. In therapy, they talked about the things that were separating them. Marty's need for order and routine, Michelle's anger at having to move around a lot because of her job, and her desire for a more social, outgoing lifestyle versus his choice for the quiet of home. Then there was the matter of kids. Marty wanted them, but Michelle wasn't ready. Even though their meetings were heated, Michelle's relationship with John Diamond was never brought up. Marty looked like he had no idea what was going on. Instead, Michelle was the one who brought up the snitch. When Marty and his wife lived in Florida many years ago, he put up his own online ad. It didn't lead to anything, and Marty said he was very sorry and insisted there had never been an affair. Still, Michelle acted like the finding was an act of betrayal, and it made their marriage very hard. At the same time, John Diamond found it hard to say goodbye to Michelle. Even though the end of their relationship hurt him, he seemed to accept it in the end, or so it seemed. Everything came to a head on December 17th, 2000. That night, Marty and Michelle went to a Christmas party put on by Michelle's boss. People who knew them well remembered seeing them together, smiling, holding hands, and looking close like a loving pair. No one thought that tragedy would happen in just a few hours. The couple went home after the party. Michelle asked Marty to stop by her office quickly before going back to bed for the night. She told me she had to get some books. They took Marty in their red Ford Explorer and waited for her inside. Soon after, shooting broke through the night. Around 10:30 p.m., Marty was shot 5 times in the parking lot. One bullet hit him in the head, which seemed like an intentional attempt to kill him. As soon as the police arrived, they noticed how strange the crime was. There was no theft. Marty's cash, watch, and everything else stayed the same. It did not look like a theft at all. The tone seemed personal. As is often the case, suspicion fell on the victim's husband. Detectives found out that Marty had just bought a $500,000 life insurance policy, and Michelle's actions that night raised some red flags. To call for help, she didn't use the phone in her office. Instead, she ran barefoot across the street to a nearby video rental shop. The cops thought this was strange. Did she waste valuable time while her husband was dying? Michelle told what was going on. She said she ran outside in fear when she heard the gunshots. She was in such a hurry that she locked herself out of her office and couldn't get to her phone. She had no choice but to run to the video hut and beg the staff to call 911. Investigators weren't sure, though. They had doubts about Michelle's story. She told everyone about her affair with John Diamond, the problems in her marriage, and how difficult things were between her and Marty. She even admitted that she still kept in touch with John as a friend, even though she said she had broken up with him. Investigators were interested in how honest they were, but it also brought up a new option. It's possible that John Diamond himself had a reason. Did he want Marty to get out of the way so he could have Michelle? It didn't take long to question John Diamond. He denied having any part in it. He said that he and his wife had been watching films at home the night of the murder. His wife agreed with what he said, and her mother, who was also there, confirmed it. It looked like John's story was safe for a moment. But the very next day, on December 18th, John filed for divorce. This was a coincidence that detectives couldn't ignore. Due to their suspicions, investigators talked to his wife again. This time, shaken by the divorce and aware of her husband's infidelities, she chose to tell the full story. She recalled that around 9 p.m., while they were supposedly watching a film together, John got a phone call. He instantly stood up, changed his clothes, and announced he was going to the barracks. Later, phone records showed that Michelle's number had made the call. Michelle, on the other hand, said she never made the call. Even though the case was getting stronger, it still rested on a lot of weak evidence. John and Michelle were both asked to take polygraph tests in 2001. They said no. Detectives thought the refusal was odd, even though both said their lawyers strongly told them not to. As the questions got more in-depth, new information came to light. The police found out that Michelle had had an affair with John before. During Marty's travels and training, Michelle looked for fun by having several affairs and going to clubs where people swapped partners. This was especially true when she lived in Alabama. Marty, who wanted a safe family life, didn't seem to know anything about it. In addition, Michelle had not really broken up with John after she went back to Marty. The woman told police that she had, but texts showed that she hadn't. She tried to break up with John at first, but he begged her not to. Their relationship kept going. Setting up surveillance outside of Michelle's house proved that they were still having an affair. It wasn't like Michelle and John were sad or upset when they went on vacation together in Florida at the beginning of 2001. The police could see what was going on. Michelle might not have taken the gun herself, but she might have been able to get her boyfriend to do it. When John's friends told them that he had taken a gun from a man named John Donald, it made them even more suspicious. It was the same kind of gun that was used to kill Marty. Police asked Diamond to give the gun back, and he said it had been stolen during a car break-in, but a surveillance film showed that he might not have been telling the truth. His car was seen outside of Michelle's house the night of the claimed theft, which made it look like the break-in story was made up. Michelle went back to the police station with a strange story as the pressure mounted. She said she kept seeing John after Marty died, but she claimed it was only because she was looking into something else. She said that her background in psychology gave her the skills to get information, and she wanted to find out if John killed her husband. Detectives saw it as another strange turn in a story that was getting more and more complicated. John Diamond was caught by military police in February 2001. He was officially charged with murder and planning to kill someone. In August of that year, his trial started. It was hard to ignore how the pieces of the prosecution's case fit together, even though they were based mostly on suspicion. The police found that John had borrowed the gun that was used to kill Marty. Phone records showed that he and Michelle talked on the phone a lot in the days and hours before the murder, which suggests that they planned and coordinated it. His wife and other people he knew told police about his erratic behavior the night of the murder when he left home to answer the phone. And what was even worse was that ballistics tests showed the bullets found in Marty's body came from the gun John had borrowed. The case did have some holes, though. Near the crime scene, no one had seen John. There were no DNA or fingerprints that directly linked him to the crime, and no eyewitness accounts. Michelle used her Fifth Amendment rights and refused to answer questions when she was called to appear. This made people even more suspicious of her, but gave prosecutors fewer direct statements they could use against her. John, for his part, said he did not fire the gun. He said he wasn't the planner and instead said he was just a man who fell for Michelle's plans. The military court did not change its mind. John Diamond was found guilty and given a prison term of life without the chance to get out. Because it was against military law, he lost his rank, his honors, and his perks. The defense tried to overturn the decision, which led to concerns about a possible conflict of interest. They said Michelle paid the first retainer for his private lawyers, which was not shown in court. Still, the conviction stood, despite all of these attempts. John Diamond got his life term right away, because there was never a plea deal. When Diamond was put in jail, all eyes were on Michelle again. She was charged with first-degree murder and planning to kill someone in August 2001. She didn't go to court. Instead, she disappeared. She took out $30,000 from her funds, had plastic surgery to change how she looked, made up a new name, and ran away to Florida. She stayed hidden for more than a year by staying out of sight and avoiding places and people she knew who might recognize her. In August 2002, the police finally caught her after a long search. By that time, authorities had gathered a huge amount of proof. Michelle's computer showed more than 88,000 emails and chat messages from her relationship with John Diamond and their talks about Marty's death. People looked for body bags on the internet and made detailed notes on how to take on a new name, get fake documents, and avoid being caught. Once again, Michelle used her Fifth Amendment rights to refuse to appear in her own trial in 2004, but the digital proof spoke for itself. Jurors saw her clear conversations with John, the notes she made about her plans, and the careful steps she took to hide after the charges were brought. That was enough to get a conviction. Michelle was found guilty of first-degree murder and planning to kill someone in December 2004. She was given a life sentence without the chance to get out. The Anson Correctional Institution for Women in Polton, North Carolina, is still where she is being held. Things were not going well for Michelle, even in jail. In 2010, she was punished because guards found a hand-drawn plan of the facility she was trying to mail out, which could have been a sign that she was trying to escape. As a punishment, she was put in disciplined segregation for 45 days. This story about Captain Marty shows how fragile life can be. People who knew him, like family, friends, and co-workers, remember him not for how tragic it was that he died, but for how hard he worked and how much love he had for others. People still remember him, and the case that killed him is still one of Fayetteville's most haunting examples of love gone horribly wrong. Thank you for joining me for this story. Share your thoughts below, and if you found this case interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay safe, and see you soon.